healer of the brokenhearted. Ana Elna, Rifanala, please God heal them. That text is in this week's Parsha, in this week's Torah portion. Please God heal them. Please God heal her. Please God, may all of our hearts be healed. And may Torah support us in that healing. So tonight, for those of you who saw, it's, well, my orange is on my pants, on my scarf that's too hot to wear right now, or wear orange. Wear orange. I was thinking of you, Mary Reed. I thought maybe you could provide things for the rest of the congregation and those of us who don't have as much orange. So I'll share a little bit about the history of wearing orange on this date, talk a little bit about the problem of gun violence, offer a framing you may or may not have considered, connect it with this week's Parsha, Torah portion, Behalotecha, and a special section of our Torah that comes from this week's reading. But I first want to just name that I'm not going to be going into statistics or, details really about gun violence, but if this is a topic, it's an intense topic. So if this is a topic that you would rather not be even just engaged in right now, I can just give you the Torah connection later, or somebody else can, and I invite you to, as always, if you need to get a drink of water or whatever you need to do, to feel free to do so. So, wear orange, wearing orange this weekend. Orange has become the defining color of gun violence, of the gun violence prevention movement. In response to the death of a 16-year-old, Hadia Pendleton, on a playground in Chicago. Soon after this tragedy, Hadia's childhood friends decided to commemorate her life by wearing orange, the color, of course, that hunters wear in the woods to protect themselves and others. And so Wear Orange, kind of the official Wear Orange, began on June 2nd in 2015. Can you hear me? Not really, kind of, it's muffled. Let's see. If I talk through this, is this better? Any difference? Sounds fine either way. Anyway, I'll try both and we'll see what happens. I know that sometimes my voice seems to not carry so well. So Wear Orange began on June 2nd of 2015, what would have been Hadia's 18th birthday. And since then, Wear Orange has expanded to a period of 3 days each year, the first Friday in June, now, National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and then the weekend of Saturday and Sunday, Wear Orange Weekend. And so that is why we are wearing orange, and that's why I'm talking about this evening. The problem of gun violence is, of course, not something new to us as Americans, unfortunately. And, we know that the problem has a lot of different elements to it. Just when it gets exacerbated through mental illness, the ease with which suicide takes place, attacks against others, one-to-one, one-to-many. And we at OSE are, of course, not immune with the amount of time and energy spent on grants to secure our facility as a Jewish facility. And those of us who've been here for a while have noticed some of the subtle changes that still hopefully keep us a welcoming, warm congregation, but yet we can just be aware of some of the subtle changes of alarms under the table and, the planter out front to protect things, among many other changes. Who has children in this room or grandchildren who hear? All right, so for those who have children or grandchildren right now or are connected to children or grandchildren, you probably know that in the schools, it's a regular thing to have active shooter drills. And it's really different than a tornado drill or a fire drill. Right, it's really different. Because human beings have light inside them, and a lot of things happen to cover over that light. And so we should be doubling down only on how do we restore the access of that light so it can shine forth most fully for everybody's sake, the individual who's hurting and everybody around them. And we live in an imperfect world where it gets complicated, and so we of course know that that doesn't always get the resources and support that it needs. And so I just want to name that by letting this kind of insidious, and letting it, right? Like it's not like any of us here really could have stopped it. It's something much larger than any one of us. And yet by being part of the problem, I just want to name that we can also kind of frame the problem in a different way. A gift of sorts of 9/11 is that we can see how our country can make rapid change when it wants to something it considers a threat. External terrorism. We know how to keep our airports safe. We know how to watch out in different ways. And what we're encountering with the gun violence in our nation is internal terrorism that affects, of course, all of us, and affects us all by small levels to great levels of trauma that we all get to carry as a benefit of living with the Second Amendment and the ways it's being interpreted in our nation. Right, that the fact that it gets to disempower all of us and help us all live with a little more of an edge of fear. Because as we know, right, the real truth is if we want to be safe, really safe, deeply safe, not just externally safe, how do I keep someone from hurting me quick, but that safety that comes from inside, the calm, the confidence, the ease of being. Guns don't help with that. And having more people with more guns, of course, just creates more people who are on edge because they've got a gun. And as a person who doesn't have a gun but knows some people with guns and some people who got guns because they thought it would help keep their family safe and then realized it doesn't. It creates an edge because I'm not going to stay trained like a police officer so that in the moment something happens, I've got the calm. So we get to live in a traumatized country that diminishes each one of our lights when we are carrying some amount of trauma. It doesn't diminish, it covers over our light. So this parsha, Behalotecha, talks about lifting up lights. When you lift up the lights to light the menorah in our ancient sacred Mishkan, in our sacred space that we traveled through the desert, creating, constructing and deconstructing, constructing and deconstructing. Lifting up the lights is what this parsha is about. And we get to start to get into details in this week's parsha about how do we move over 1 million people through the wilderness for ultimately about 40 years. So there's rituals, there's laws, there's Passover, a second Passover, which we had the last first Friday, for those of us who are here, is listed in this parsha. It's talked about this parsha. But also in this parsha is a special little section that's mysteriously framed by 2 upside-down nuns. I'll give you the Hebrew and let's see if you know it, you can sing along phrase by phrase. I'll do a little bit, then I'll translate it. Vayahi bin so Aaron. When the ark, the Aaron, was to set forward, when we were to go forward into the wilderness, and the Aaron, the ark with the tablets, was going to be setting forward. Vayomer Moshe. Moshe would say this. Kuma, you can join me. Kuma Adonai veyafutzu oivecha veyanusu misanecha mipanecha. And that's actually where that part of it ends. Arise, Kuma, arise, rise up, advance, Yud He Vav He. And the Rashbam, the medieval commentator, said the Shekhinah It meant that the Shekhinah would come up off above the cover of the ark. My sound is, I know, kind of funny now. So, V'yafutzu oivecha. May your enemies be scattered. V'yanusu misanecha mipanecha. May your foes flee from before you. And then the next verse in the Torah says, Uvnucho yomal. And then there's a little bit that we kind of mumble to ourselves in the Sidur, and then we get to Eitz Chaim, which is not in the Torah portion. But I'm going to get to that. Uvnucho yomar. Uvnucho nachat. When the ark rested, when the ark halted, then what would Moshe say? Right? So when we were about to go up, Moshe would say, okay, come on, God, get all our enemies away from us. And we would wander and walk and follow and try to figure out where, follow the masses there. And when it was time to stop, this is what Moshe would say, Uvnucho yomar, Shuva Adonai, Revavot alfei Yisrael. Shuva Adonai. Now, I know we're just in June, but some of us are already thinking about the high holidays and Shuva and returning and turning and all that. Shuva is often translated, thought about as a turning and returning, and it's true. But here in this case, 1,000 years ago or so, Ibn Ezra, medieval commentator and grammarian, and Rashi, said that in this particular case, Shuva does not actually mean return. Because of specifics, grammars, you can look in the commentaries about that, but I'll just let you know that they say it doesn't actually mean return. You will see the translations in the Siddur probably say return, because many translations do, but the medieval commentators say, no, if you look really carefully, it doesn't mean return. It actually means stillness. When the ark would come to a rest, Moshe would say there should be stillness. And we know it's stillness because in Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 15, Isaiah uses the word shuva, and it means stillness in that case. So in Isaiah, the verse about stillness says, you shall triumph. God is saying through Isaiah, you shall triumph by stillness and quiet. Your victory shall come about through calm and confidence. Stillness and quiet. That's the path to triumph. So in Isaiah, at this time when we can feel so deeply disempowered, but also inside perhaps raging and furious, may we model our actions on a confidence that change is coming, change is possible, and that we can indeed be the force to bring that forth. May we turn our eyes, our hearts, our prayers to Colorado, actually, this Monday, and a new action of an organization called Here for the Kids, 4 with the number 4 if you look it up later. This movement's co-founders are Black, brown, and Indigenous women, with a team of white women working behind the scenes and showing up en masse for the action on Monday. And their goal is to go blue state by blue state, pushing governors to ban all guns and to buy them back. It sounds lofty, but they've got a plan and it sounds promising. All are, of course, welcome to participate, but this action is going to be unique in many ways, including the fact that that front force of the action is really going to be mostly white women. More than 25,000 are going to be there. Why white women? Because we have the privilege. We have the privilege of being the least likely to be brutalized by police. So let us use that privilege. I won't be there, but may we use, each one of us, use our privilege. There will be no chanting at this act of civil disobedience and no marching, just sitting quietly in Denver, Colorado, until the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, signs an executive order to ban all guns and buy them back this Monday. Wear orange 2023. They will not move until he signs it. And then they will take that same order and they will demand every Democratic governor do the same. So may they lead the way, and may we soon in Maryland have easy access, and may we encourage to doing the same and encourage all our friends here and in other states in the same way. It's been 24 years since Columbine in Colorado, and things have not gotten better. But excitingly, here in Maryland, 3 important pieces of gun legislation passed in the final days of the Maryland legislative session. If they get signed, they will be among the strongest gun violence prevention legislation in the country. So we can be proud of that step and hopeful and work for in whatever ways we can to make that happen. And Cantor Caitlin has ideas for that. There'll be ways to sign that. So instead of adding more fuel to the fire, may the advocacy work of the Brady campaign, Moms Demand Action, Every Town for Gun Safety, and Here for the Kids, and all those working at all levels to end gun violence, triumph, in the words of Isaiah, with stillness, shuva, and quiet. In the words of this parsha, shuva Adonai. And may our victory come about through calm and confidence, bimhera v'yameinu, speedily and in our days. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It is not for us to finish this work, we are told from a 2,000-year-old maxim. V'lo ata ben chorin lebatal mimena. But we are not free to desist. Let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.